What black market did kids at your school run? My school was an extremely conservative Christian boarding school. Things that were forbidden were, by no means a complete list, jeans, for girls, shorts, for everyone, candy, any sort of food in the dorms, cell phones, any form of gaming system, TV, movies, playing non-Christian songs on musical instruments, clothes made by popular brands, A&F and Hollister etc. Naturally, there were a few students who started selling food, candy, and A&F Hollister clothes. Why people bought these from them I don't know, but they made huge amounts of money. A lot of the kids at that school were rich doctors' kids, so there was plenty of money to go around. One guy sold a box of Altoids for $15. TLDR. My high school was so strict that the black market was people paying ridiculous amounts of money for food and snacks. Our school didn't have candy, so I started buying huge bags of pixie sticks and sold them for like $0.25 a piece. Then I got caught. This was middle school, so drugs and all that excluded. They probably thought you were selling Jingle Jangle from Riverdale. I lived in an area with a lot of retiree age people, a lot of which ended up raising their grandchildren. It really isn't a good area. Being older and from a rural area, they still don't trust online sites like eBay or Amazon, so I started ordering people things from those sites for actual money and added a charge for me to be making money off of it. It eventually got shut down because I got someone a USB in the shape of a pistol. It was the size of a USB and clearly a USB, but it didn't matter. The principal actually got the police involved to try to get me in real trouble. During a drug search at my school, a guy got in trouble simply for having a shirt in his truck with SX pistols on it. Zero tolerance is a freaking mess. Some kids made a habit of stealing chalk when the teachers weren't looking. After a while they started selling it, charging more for longer and fresher sticks. It ended when someone eventually snitched on a buyer, which started a cascade of counter-snitching. Many pockets were emptied, some with chalk, but most of the dealers had hidden their chalk and got away with it. I was a Pokemon card smuggler. In 6th grade, my friend's dad overheard my friend and I talking about how much our Pokemon cards were worth. He was shocked to learn some were worth $10-20 a piece. He made the comment, "Shame they won't be worth that much when you go to sell them." That comment stuck with me, and a few days later I started selling my cards at school. I made a list of everything I had with prices next to them. I'd pass the list around during class and kids would meet up with me between classes to buy what they wanted. I was making crazy amounts of money for a middle schooler, and before long parents were complaining that their kids were skipping lunch because they were spending their lunch money on Pokemon cards. So the school banned them. But I still had a good bit of inventory to move. I did all kinds of things to avoid getting caught. I hid cards in a box of crayons. I put a few sheets of sleeves in the middle of a binder full of legit notes. I even hollowed out an old textbook to hide all my cards. Despite getting searched 3-5 times over the next few weeks, my cards were never found and I was able to sell all of them before Christmas break. I ended up making close to $800 and was able to buy my entire immediate and extended family Christmas gifts with my own money for the first time. Once all the other kids learned how much money I had made, they were blown away and suddenly everyone was selling their cards. Problem was, no one was buying them anymore. TLDR. I started a one-kid Pokemon card black market, smuggling them into school, and got out of the game right before the bubble burst. I always thought it would be cool to hollow out some kind of hardcover and hide stuff in there, but I never actually did it. Now that I've been an adult for many years, I'm pretty sure I don't own anything that a hollowed out book is really a good place to keep it. Pencils for pencil fighting. The way it worked is one person would hold their pencil out grabbing both ends, and then the other person would see if they could break the pencil with theirs by holding one end and then pulling the other end back, snapping it down on the other pencil. This was called pencil break in my school and I was the champion. We made a website that started as us doing stupid prank phone calls and jackass stunts. It turned into a homework sharing and answers to tests and quizzes that people would steal later. Luckily I wasn't involved by that time, but my friends weren't involved in graduation. If the website became a social network for advanced placement students and got shut down following the circulation of a teacher's hacked nudes. Hello friend. Marbles were big at my primary school. Real big. It got to the stage where they were only allowed for 3 months a year, as we would no longer discuss anything but the game we had the make we wanted to pay for. That was marble season. Now you could buy a big bag of cat's eyes from the supermarket, but they wouldn't get you far. To play the high stakes games, you needed a spect egg, a glitter bomb, a tidal wave, or something exotic, but those suckers were pricey. Us poor kids couldn't afford those things, so we secretly gambled our marbles through the year, so when marble season opened, we had amassed enough marbles to really be ahead of the game. Being caught with marbles outside of marble season was bad. Real bad. One kid got 5 strokes of the cane. This being so, it was a big risk to hide in the shadows of the trees and sling those little glass balls about. Not only did it hone your skills for the season start, but you got good at taking the shot and then acting nonchalant. Marbles were currency. You could trade lunches with them or buy time on playground equipment. There was a good reason they banned marbles at my school. We turned it into some sort of mafia crap. Marbles trigger my frick addiction. Like if I open a door to a room full of marbles, it's amazing, but it's very rare. The guy that started and maintained, and went to jail for, the Silk Road went to my high school, like a year or 2 before me. There was this girl that used to sell candy bars at my school. Her mom would get the big packs at Sam's. She asked me to help her, and that's when business started booming. We were making $50 $100 a day just hustling in the hallways and in gym. Unfortunately, she got caught and they shut us down. I used to run a pro wrestling merch hustle when I was in middle school. I was obsessed and would sell figurines at an incredibly marked up price and use the proceeds to buy wrestling DVDs. My mom won a year's supply of double stuffed Oreos. I sold them in Ziploc bags while in 4th grade to everyone I could, even teachers. My mom thought my friends were eating them all. Me and my best friend sold packs of gum in middle school. We'd make around $30 a day and the teachers were going crazy trying to find where all the gum was coming from. As model students, they never suspected us. Pop rocks in the late 70s. Kid drove 40 miles from Alabama to Catholic school in Georgia and got M and Allen double the price in GA. Sister Charles broke up the ring before we could find out if drinking Coke and eating Pop rocks blew up your stomach. That's something you could still find out now though. In my primary school we had some disabled kids and they had these special crayons that wrote really well, so some kids would steal them and trade them for Pokemon cards and random toys. Yo, that's a bit messed up. My grandpa taught me how to crack the protection on DVDs and burn them to blanks. I would buy the 100 packs of blanks for like $20 $30 and sell the movies for like $5 each. I thought it was gonna come to an end when someone brought it up in front of a teacher. Turns out he wanted movies too. I was the snack plug in my freshman year. Sold Little Debbie snacks and bottles of soda. Put this other kid put off business and he threatened to kill me during lunch. Told him he'd be doing me a favor. Frick, killing them with kindness. Kill them with existential dread. Pink eye. $5. In middle school, you could come to school with pink eye and make a lot of money off of kids who wanted to miss a test. Kid would just stick his finger in his own eye, and then in yours. EWW. There's a town butcher who has the best beef jerky I've ever tasted. His son would bring packs of it in his bag in high school and sell them to other kids. These Hispanic kids in my school brought a bunch of Mexican snacks to class and sold them for cheap. Those mango lollipops with the chili powder on them or whatever it is, were the bomb. Actually, I happened to have a hustle. My friend lived in New Orleans. She moved away from my state and came up to visit. It was just Mardi Gras, and she had a whole trunk full of beads. She gave me an entire bucket of them because they literally were in over their heads. I marketed them at school as authentic beads from the real Mardi Gras and kids were paying .50 for one of them. I should have majored in business instead of becoming an art student. A friend of mine made glass candy with her mom of all different flavors that was freaking phenomenal. She sold it off for 50 cents a bag and made a killing for a good while. Made the mistake of bringing in a Jack Daniels flavored batch and some goody two shoes snitched her to the office claiming she was selling booze. I ran it. For a few spare years in elementary, books got banned in the classroom. Not blacklisted books, but literally books in general. They were far too distracting. Even though most kids read when done with work, etc. I started smuggling books to school and peddling them out to kids. It started out innocently. I had loads of Hank the Cowdog books that I was super into, and I hid them in my desk, and I loaned them to close friends when asked. But soon, the entire class knew, and that spread to the school. I became a full-time book smuggler. I had a system where there was a 2-week borrowing limit, kept a log of who what book when, ran a teensy little library for myself, basically, and I made sure these kids were treating the books fairly. If anything came back damaged, they were banned from borrowing. Kept this up until middle school, which was considerably less totalitarian. I was the dirty magazine dealer when I was in middle school in the 80s. First I found my parents' pea stash. Boxes and boxes and boxes stashed. Basement boxes by the washing machine and under the Civil War swords. Guest bedroom under the bed. At least 50. Standing cabinet in the kitchen. Cabinets near the ceiling. All over their bedroom. Under the china. We were riddled with it. Yeah, I went through my parents' bedroom. There were hundreds of porno mags in the house and I was 11. Only God and my parents knew what was in there and I had to find out. After I had gotten bored of some, I started selling them to other kids. $20 each in 1984 money. The titty magazine market was booming, selling to other adolescents. I had a client base and had to get more. I'd go into a bookstore and ask for the most esoteric book that I could imagine. The clerk would go check in the back and I'd stuff all the Penthouse Playboy mags in my bag and book it. Maybe a comic book too. Treat yourself. Many years later I returned to my hometown and went to that bookstore. I wanted to apologize and try to make up for it somehow. It was gone. Sorry about that, Walden Books. We were boys and you had boobs. Me and some friends had a pencil business and we would steal and sell pencils to everyone until some of the kids in our group snitched, so we had to do it outside of school. Once you have started down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. You'll go back to the pencils one day. It is inevitable. Spork. I'm not sure if it really qualified as black market, but many teachers banned it and each spork cost $5. The idea was every person playing had a target and had to spork their target by poking them while their target wasn't holding their spork. They then inherit their target's target. In the last few weeks, it became a free-for-all and you could eliminate any player. At the end, a portion of the total buy-in was distributed to everyone still in the game. We had a pizza dealer who would take orders and cash from other students for the first few periods, then pick up the delivery in the parking lot at the start of lunch. Dude was pretty chill. Salt packets. We were hit hard by the Michelle Obama salt recession, and the enterprising kids were quick to buy restaurant salt packets in bulk and redistribute them under the table. $1 would get you enough salt for a whole week's worth of microwave pizzas. I had no idea the Michelle Obama salt recession was a thing. My little brother says his version of the black market in school is drugs. I said no, that's the actual black market. Had a guy who used to sell cookies. Really good cookies at that. Dumb policy made it so kids can't run little businesses through school primarily to combat drug sale. It didn't help. He had to start selling cookies like a drug dealer to keep going. Cops were called and they confiscated his Tupperwares of cookies. He still sold cookies for a year after that. Now we have graduated. Myself and 3 other friends, all Asian, sold those Asian jelly straws. Something non-Asian kids are unfamiliar with but were in love with when discovered. Caramel apple pops and Mexican lollipops. Large Latin community and saw the opportunity to make more money. Covered in tajin in middle school. Each straw was 25 cents. 5 for $1 and pops would go for 75 cents to $1 depending on the demand. We would each have a jar of the jelly straws in our own locker, a bag of pops and a small box of quarters and cash. Every period, we would restock our backpack and sell while walking to and from class and in our class period. It was great. As a middle schooler, $20, split between 4 of us. $5 per kid. A day was the equivalent of making 6 figures now in adult life. Life was great, until one day my friend's locker got broken into. Someone had watched over his shoulder when he put his locker combination in and came back later. They took all the snacks, all the cash, about $100 worth, and everything else in the trash. School eventually banned the jelly straws but not the pops. Large Latin communities still brought their own to eat as snacks. and made students who got caught reselling snacks get suspended. My 3 friends and I were content back then. We had made roughly $2,000 from our classmates and still got to eat the Asian straws at home. Now I work 40+ hour weeks to pay rent and eat fast food. Growing up sucks. We created an entire black market currency and economy based on rocks. Story below. I used to manage one of 3 mining operations that were running concurrently on the elementary school playground. Back in the mid to late 90s. This school was located in a small town in southeast Tennessee, rural and bordered by the Cherokee National Forest. The shinier or smoother the rock, the more valuable it could be. Rocks were traded between kids and their peers for snacks, drinks, homework bribes, even protection from bullies. Whoever controlled the rocks controlled the playground. My operation had the largest kids, using the biggest boulders that were chipped into rounded points to break up the largest rocks down to manageable size for a bunch of little kids, and we had the most hands with sticks and straight-edged rocks for digging and dirt displacement. At the end of a day of work, we would place a huge rock on top of our mining hole, too big for most anyone to lift, besides a select few guys that all worked for me. Of course, I'm sure any of the 4th, 5th or 6th graders could have, at the time, had they cared to. 2 other operations existed. One that was made up of all girls, though their rock output was shabby at best, and another group that did their work inside of the dome-shaped jungle gym, providing the most protection from intruders and thieves, while also providing line-of-sight obstruction to the teachers and others. As a manager, I would walk the edge of the playground looking for strong sticks and perfect digging rocks, because the durability of sticks and pieces of chipped rock required a pretty steady supply of unbroken tools to work with. On the occasion that the classes had recess at different times, a lot of thievery and sabotage would happen. Rocks would get stolen and mining holes would get filled with trash and debris. I recently visited the old school, which was closed in the mid-2000s and is now abandoned and has fallen into disrepair. The hole though, it's still there. All this time still hasn't fixed the impact my class and others had on that old playground. That's about all I can remember from the experience, but I do still have my own personal collection of rocks from that playground that I took home bit by bit over many years in elementary school. A box full of stupidity and imagination. In 6th grade I convinced my dad to lend me $100 to get a huge order of silicone bracelets, like the Livestrong ones, that said Napoleon and Pedro to sell at school since Napoleon Dynamite was huge at the time. Other kids started doing the same thing but with better phrases, and that's when the underground bracelet market started at my school. Shortly after this they banned us from selling them anymore and I owed my dad like $80 still, haha. In college, our dorm bras decided to run this thing where if you were being a model citizen in their eyes, they'd give you these little printed pieces of fake money that were printed on different colors of heavy paper. You could use these to redeem at the front desk for stuff that cost money to rent, like pots and pans, video games, etc. We found out that the campus bookstore sold the same type of paper that they were using, and so with a little time in Photoshop later, we were able to mass produce these things that were worth $1 each for something like 3 cents each. We didn't get caught, but the RAs dropped the program after they had a big event for people to turn into their coupon things and they ended up with 650 more than they thought were in circulation. In our defense, we were bored. That was trending that once the principal told all PE teachers to search whole class bags for pen drives and they manually checked and called their parents. P is illegal in our country, also it was like a black market like scene. If you got caught then it's over, if not then you are rich as F. I ran a black market sour gum ball operation in grade 5. We'd buy them in bulk, sell them for 5 cents each, and make about $12 in profit a bag. Did it just off of the school property line at the edge of the field, so it was legit. One of our staff was a keener with a principal for a father and a teacher for a mother. He cracked under questioning from staff and asked us out. Even though we weren't doing anything against school rules and weren't on school property, I feigned illness the next day, let the whole thing blow over, and nothing came of it. I had hustling in my blood from a young age. Lemonheads, Johnny Apple Treats, Jolly Rancher Sticks, Red Hots, etc. Most of them cost 10 cents at the store, and I charged $25. Only made like $5 a week. but this was the 80s. Also, we had a huge marble thing going on out during recess. Lots of trading, purchases, etc. Everyone was convinced dough baby marbles, clay marbles, were worth a lot more than other marbles. In the 80s, a lot of the old World War II era clay marbles ended up in grandkids' collections. Teehee, kids weren't wrong. There just weren't that many actual dough babies around in school. I had one real one. I found a pharmacy in the next town over that sold bags of ceramic marbles that looked and felt like clay. I didn't flood the market exactly, but I did get plenty of free candy and pop after school, as well as my pick of the best marbles on the playground. Gas masks. I live in Kharkiv, Ukraine, near a forest, and there is an abandoned military base in this forest. When I studied at school, there was nothing except old calendars on the walls and gas masks, almost new, in good condition, with bags, even with some filters. So, once the brave kids went there and brought some, everyone started asking them for more. So, they started going there regularly to sell these gas masks later at school. It went on until military came back to this base. It was like 10 years ago, and I still have my mask. The base has been abandoned since early mid-1990s, if anyone's curious. My mom was a teacher at the school I went to. She used to confiscate finger skateboards and finger bikes that we used to play with and trade. After school I'd take them from my mom's desk and sell them back to the kids. When I was in high school, Jamie Oliver's TV show came to make our menu healthier. So, salt and sugar packets became a pretty hot commodity. I still miss turkey Twizzlers. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.